So let's turn some attention now to body types, and this is definitely one when you can be walking down the street and thinking, metal, wood, fire, etc. But it's also one where you probably need to be a little bit more careful because there is so much attachment to body type and image and aesthetics in our culture. It can also you can have a tendency to latch onto features here that may not be as important diagnostically, and they're more important, culturally or aesthetically. It's been kind of media programmed into us, and so you want to pay attention to this, but pay attention to it in a flexible kind of way because things aren't always the direct correlation that we may assume here. But when we're looking at the patient, body type can be classified according to our 5 elements. So we're looking here at the standard 5-element diagnosis. This could be used for constitutional reasons and could also be indicated in other areas, but it's mainly going to be in constitutional thinking. It can help you identify the type of pathologies a person might be susceptible to, what their constitutional weakness is, what's the kind of areas where they're particularly prone to specific kinds of illness, and it can also give you an insight into the nature of the person, because of course these things go together. So someone who is physically a earth type is more likely to be emotionally or from a persona perspective very earthy as well, and that might help you in understanding the way that you interact with them and talk with them and adapt yourself to a way that's going to be more supportive for a particular client. So if we look at the wood type, so our wood type has a sinewy body. They tend to be longer, thinner, that very sinewy or fluidness to them. If you're I'm going to try to give you guys some pop culture references. So if I apologise to everyone in the room who's not the complete nerdy geek that I am, they're mainly nerdy geeky pop culture references because that's what I know. I apologise to everyone who doesn't follow that. But if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, an elf is a sinewy body, tall, lean, languid, flowing kind of. The elves in Lord of the Rings are a wood type physically, at least. Certainly not all of them are wood, but as a group, they can have a smaller head and a longer face. This is aspect to the wood people. If you think of like toffee, where you're getting this cooked sugar kind of product and stretching it, a wood type can be like that. It can be someone who's looked like they've almost kind of grabbed someone and just stretched them a little bit. They're a bit leaner, a bit longer than other people may be. They can have that wood greenish discoloration to their complexion, so an olive green kind of shade to their complexion. They tend to be tall, straight, like our elf friends, fairly broad in the shoulders very often, but they can have small hands, small feet, so smaller featured, like our elf friends. They can be very hard workers. Wood people have got a lot of get up and go with them. If we think about that nature of the liver as kind of this general, is that directing about how things happen. Apologies to all the wood people in the room. With love, I'm saying this for you, but wood people can be a bit bossy. They can be very hard worker and expect hard work from everyone else as well. If you've ever had a wood type person as a boss, they can be a bit of a slave driver actually. In deficiency though, they could be the opposite of that and be very indecisive, very timid. We know, it's our liver is making the plan, our gallbladder that executes a decision. If we're deficient in this area, it can be very hard to make decisions. So if you've been talking to someone, a friend of mine who she's hysterical. She very frequently has multiple job offers. She'll go and interview for a bunch of jobs, be offered multiple of them, and then she'll accept all of them, and she'll tell each of them she'll accept the job, and then spend the next couple of weeks trying to work out which one she's going to call to say she's not showing up on Monday. She's so she finds it so difficult to choose which is the direction she wants to pursue. This one's got the better hours, this one's got the better salary, this one's got the more interesting work, this is going to be easier work. I don't know what to do. And she's had that situation 3 times. Now she changes jobs very frequently. It's such a wood thing to do. She's quite a wood kind of a constitution, this friend of mine. In excess, they could be the opposite of that. They could be short-tempered, likes planning, but can be controlling. This can be the over-controlling kind of boss where this wood is in a bit of excess here. Their strengths, sinews and bones can be really good here. That liver and wood correlation to our sinews and flexibility can be a very area of strength for them, and planning and development. These people who can be really good in the health of having a clear vision of this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there, this is the strategy that's going to get us there, I've got a goal that I'm moving towards. Very goal orientated can be a strength here. In weakness, over exercise can result in a lack of blood to nourish the tendons, so we get tendon disease, easily breaks, recurrent sprains that come back again, these kinds of things. They can be very easily affected by stress. We know that our liver gets stuck, chi gets stagnant, people get unhappy, and we get chi stagnation symptoms, which really distress our liver. Our wood types can be very easily affected by stress and really get in that state quite easily. And they can be prone to eye problems and migraines. Liver, of course, manifesting in the eyes, and so wood people often have issues in that kind of area. And so you can see on our little drawings on the screen here, it's got very much that wood kind of longer kind of face, a body shape. It's a sinewy, long, lean, tall, straight, but also quite broad-shouldered comparative to the rest of the body. It's almost a swimmer's build, but not with the amount of development that you'd have with a swimmer who's swimming all the time. But you could imagine that he would make a spectacular backstroker with a couple of years of training, because he's got that shape that fits that kind of sporting environment. If we look at fire, I'm a fire type myself, so I'm a nice example of a fire. A red kind of tone to the complexion. You can perhaps see that on the screen. If you've ever met me in person, I've definitely got a reddish kind of tone to my skin. I easily have a kind of red colour. They can have a small pointy head or a pointy chin. I don't know if my top of my head's so pointy, but I definitely got the pointy chin. Curly hair or little hair. Not really the curly so much. It's a little curly at the moment, but I have to admit that's pretend. It came out of a bottle. It's not real. It's interesting, actually, genetically. My family, my dad's side of the family, have dead straight hair as their children, and when they hit puberty, their hair goes really curly. Like my dad and his brothers all had afros in the 70s and 80s, like really big afros. Their wedding photos are hysterical, and it's a bit of genetic fire tendency, where I got more of my mum's hair. It's kind of straight. Little hair I haven't confronted yet. Will ask me again in 10 or 20 years time, and we'll see how I go. Small hands is again a thing with our fire types, similar to our wood types. They've got that in common. They can have wide kind of teeth. I might move my head up to the screen. I don't know if you can see. Pretty big front teeth, big wide square kind of shaped teeth. That's a fire kind of pattern. They tend to be quick, energetic, lively. I've certainly got that tendency. I'm a quick, rapid kind of person. Sometimes I've got to say, hey Greg, calm yourself down. Take it a little bit slower, bud. They can walk very briskly. I always have this joke that even if you're going somewhere not important, if you walk very briskly, it looks like you're doing something important. I had someone say to me at the campus recently, they came over and said, I didn't want to interrupt you. You look like you're walking in a hurry. You had something important to do, and I think I was going to buy a brownie or something. Just a brisk kind of walk is a fire expression. It can be very fond of beauty, and aesthetics is a real attachment for our fire people. Keen thinkers, but prone to overthinking and worry. They can really get caught up in the head. We often think about overthinking and worry as a spleen, as an earth kind of thing, because that that worry, that pensiveness, our emotions that go with the earth element. But fire types can have that overthinking too, that kind of heat behind them, that inability to settle down, and so they can tend to have short lives because they can burn up their energy very quickly. It's like that flame that burns very brightly, but then uses up the fuel so quickly they don't have the same length of life as some other people can have. If we look at strengths, they can be highly sociable, have very strong blood vessels and blood, or affinity with blood vessels and blood. But weaknesses, they can be prone to high blood pressure, heart disease, and prone to anxiety. This is our heart involvement with our fire, so lots of our Shen kind of expressions are a little bit more common with our fire type. If we look at our earth type, if we think about Earth, maybe a celebrity version, I would say my Earth celebrity version. Again, apologies for the non-geeky people in the room, but if you've seen any of the Marvel movies, Chris Hemsworth, the guy who plays Thor, is very much an Earth type, and I think even that character in the more recent movies, not so much in the original ones. In the original, he was this very rash, hot-headed, much more fiery, it's even a bit woody. In the latter ones, he's become much more earthy. He's an earth type. Someone, if he did a movie a number of years back with whale hunting kind of thing, where for the purpose of the movie he lost a dramatic amount of weight, like he dropped 30 kilos worth of muscle mass to get down to like a very lean, malnourished look for a portion of that movie, and then stacked on another 50 kilos after that to build himself back up to this hulking Thor kind of size to be in the next Marvel movie. That's really Earth thing, that ability to put on and gain muscle tone. We know muscles belong to the Earth element, is a very Earth kind of thing. He's also very kind of square featured. If you look at him, large head, a round-ish kindness to the face. There's a little bit of kind of squarishness to the jaw with him as well. A round, solid kind of body. Our earth types can also be prone to easy weight gain. So someone who's prone to gaining weight, in his case, he's training at gym 6 hours a day, and so it's all muscle. But the rest of us who need to go to a job, we're going to more likely to put it on a bit softer and a bit more around the middle. That can be a kind of an earth weakness. They can have strong thighs and calves, strong inner legs. The lower limbs are often meatier, stronger kind of area. They can be prone to a larger abdomen. They have that wide jaw. Again, this is your Hollywood kind of jaw, big, wide, set jaw. Fleshiness to the muscles, that yellow complexion that we've talked about. There can be a sing-song kind of tone to their voice, that earthy kind of expression where there's something about the way they talk, the tone of their voice. It's almost got like a singing kind of sound to it. They can walk firmly with their feet close to the ground. There's people who are really grounded, really rooted in the ground, attached to the earth. You can see they're really interacting physically with the environment and impacting on the ground around them. I just remember we did an activity in high school, and we did a class activity we got given. We had to mimic the walk of someone else, and the friend that I got assigned to, he had this really interesting walk where it almost looked like there was glass on the ground, like she was walking like she was afraid to touch the ground, or like something might hurt her feet if she pushed her feet down too firmly. It was a very timid kind of a walk. It's like the opposite of an earth. An earth person is stomping their feet and connecting firmly with the ground. But they can be very calm, very generous. These are not like our fire types that can be a bit agitated. Earth who's can be very calm, very grounded, very gregarious. If you think about the story of Scrooge, the Christmas Carol, that character of the is it Ghost of Christmas Present, the great big plentiful god with the horn and the food and the big cape and that big jovial kind of a character. That's an earthy kind of a type as well. Because they are so generous, they can have great interpersonal skills. People tend to gravitate towards them. They can be very charming in a way. That salt of the earth, just a lovely person. I really like them. That's a very earthy sort of thing. They like helping other people. They've got a really strong concern for other folks and will go out of their way to support and help other people. If we look at their strengths in their muscles and in nurturing others. If that Earth Mother, I guess, is also an archetype that's very earthy. Our Earth Mother, and strong body. It's the environment that we are built on, but also nurturing, caring for other people. That maternal kind of nature, whether it's male or a female parent, but that kind of nurturingness that we associate with maternal is very much an earth thing. Weakness can be being overly sympathetic. People who just can't say no. People who are really prone to other people taking advantage of them because they can't say no to anything. They can be prone to overeating, and also prone to develop arthritis and rheumatism, and this can often be a result of excessive weight gain and the kind of the chronic consequence of having too much weight bearing on the joints over a period of time. And if we look at it in a Chinese medicine perspective with earth disturbances, we can see kind of accumulations of damps and phlegm and kind of things that we associate with some chronic arthritis and rheumatism complaints. Let's look at our metal type. So the celebrity that I strongly think of with a metal type, I think I said this to you before, is Bebe Neuwirth, and I'm going to spell it so you can Google it if you want to look at pictures of her. So Bebe is B-E-B-E, Neuwirth, N-E-U-W-I-R-T-H. So she played Lilith, who was a character in Cheers back in the day, and Fraser also back in the day. They're not quite so far away now. Fraser's wife. She's very much a metal type physically. That character perhaps has got a bit more wood aspect to parts of them. There's certainly a strength there that could even go a little bit further than the metal type does, although metal type can definitely have those aspects as well. But she's every time I see her, this is the archetype of what a metal type looks like in my understanding. There's that kind of triangular or square kind of face, and she's actually got a little bit of both, a kind of square with very triangular jaw. They have a smaller head. They can have a very pale complexion. Remember, whiteness is our colour that's associated here with metal. They can have broad, square kind of a shoulders, but again, small hands and feet. They can have a relatively flat abdomen, But even the character, and another reason why I think of her and several of the characters that she's played, Bibi Newirth, I mean, she's meticulous, rational. Metal is almost got, think of it, it's dryness. There's almost this kind of emotional dryness where it's very rationally dominated. Your pop culture reference, if you think of Vulcans from Star Trek, that very meticulous, very rational, but almost an emotional kind of dryness, that could be a metal indication. They can be very independent, very strong-willed, very determined. Really keen thinker. These guys can be very bright. Really intelligent, very logical, and very rational in the way they think about things, and they think about things very capably. So they can be a capable leader. As a result of that, they can be someone who's got a good idea. People tend to follow them because they are very clear and meticulous and rational. They should usually walk slowly and deliberately. And we'll see that with them. There's an intentionality to them. In excess, they can have a very strong voice, and again, when we think strength of the voice, we're thinking about the health of the lungs and metal in our yin metal organ. And in deficiency, we can see a weak voice. We can see things like recurrent colds, flus, asthma, that really indication that there's kind of chronic respiratory stuff going on for this person. That's a metal type. Our water type. So I have to apologise. My pop culture reference here is for political, so I apologise for getting political, but it's a fantastic example. I think it's worthwhile having a look at. But our good mate Donald Trump, currently President of the United States of America, depending on when you listen to this, maybe that's hopefully not for too long. He's got a very waterish type to him. That really large head, but a very roundness of the face, very broad cheeks. A round, soft, fluidy kind of body, a large, fluidy kind of abdomen. They can have a long spine, but narrower shoulders. This is not someone who's going to look like they're going to be an ideal swimmer. They tend to be narrower around, broader around the waist and narrower around the shoulders comparatively. Even if they're not heavy set, if they've not gained weight, even in a kind of a leaner version, they can tend to have more bulk around the waist and the musculature around the waist, and less around the shoulders and kind of the musculoskeletal structure around the shoulders. Pale, white, soft face. Mr. Trump, we don't see this so often because of his tan, but if you see him in bits without the tan, or when the tan hasn't been applied, there's a very white paleness to his complexion. Positively, they can be very loyal, very sensitive, very aware. There's a lot of strong emotional strength with our water types. But negatively, they can be quite prone to laziness. If you think about the idea that water flows downhill, it takes the easiest course to get to somewhere. That's very much a water feature. Water, unlike our wood type, it's going to push their way uphill. A metal type that's going to build a bridge and get their way uphill. A water is going to be softer, but lazier as a result of that. They don't have that same degree of drive, I guess. Strengths: they can have a very strong digestive system and can display great insight. Probably a little unfair of our water types to pick such a strongly polarizing figure as the example, so I apologise to the water folks in the room, because there's actually spectacularly lovely stuff about you all. But weaknesses: they could be overly emotional. If you think about our water and our metal types, where in our metal types we can have that real kind of dryness and lack of emotionality, where water, we've got lots of water and lots of emotionality. They can sometimes not get on the best as a result of that. They can be prone to lumbar disc problems and edema in the lower limbs, build up of fluid in the lower part of the body, which is often indicative of kidney deficiency. Build up of fluid, it means our kidney's not moving kidney yang's not moving fluid appropriately, and that water's building up and accumulating in the bottom part of the body. That's very much a water indication.